Welcome back to another episode of the Dojo Media Show. I'm Logan, this is Raf, we are Dojo Media Co. Today we're joined by the Vice President of the ACS.
Queensland.
ACS Queensland, a camera operator, and another podcaster, Lucas Tomoana.
Oh, thanks for having me.
But thank you so much for coming and taking your time out for us.
That's all good.
And look, we'd love to pretty much just learn the start of your journey. We all know someone picked up a camera somewhere, fell in love with it somewhere along the way. Where was that for you?
Oh, you know, if you really trace it back, it'd probably be in South Auckland, Monaco Cinema, which doesn't exist anymore. And it'd be, my earliest memory is going to Jurassic Park with my father. And I remember like, oh, man, I must have been like 4 years old or something. And just walking out of that cinema, like I can smell the popcorn and just being amazed. Like dinosaurs, that soundtrack. It was just, you know, Spielberg at his finest. So that's like my childhood favorite film. And I didn't realize how much that and Star Wars made an impact on me growing up. And like, I don't have that story of like, I had a camera when I was younger. Like, to be honest, we're like a working class family. So we couldn't afford a camera. Right. So, but I knew as a kid, and like I kept having these visions and images in my mind, and I'd just get lost in watching this VHS set Star Wars, and Jurassic Park. And I was quite obsessive about it. And I don't know if it's ADHD or whatever, but I kept just having these, you know, images in my head. And I just kept coming back to, like, I tried drawing, and then I got annoyed with drawing because it was like, this takes too long. I think I started doing a bit of, like, modeling when I was, like, you know, like the toy models, Warhammer and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. Like painting the
trying to make these images in my head, like real life. And then I was like, okay, this doesn't work. And then I kind of started, I think it was like Windows Media Player or something. I started mucking around with like an editing program on a computer. And that's right. I started editing, like, this is before sports content was like a thing on Instagram. I started like editing like YouTube videos of like NFL players hitting each other, and it was like
just like compilations.
Yeah. I was doing that. I was like, put some cool like metal song or something.
Videos. Have you got any
like Here Comes the Boom and stuff.
Have you got any
like
massive viewed ones from back in the day?
No, not really. But another great exercise I used to do is I would grab a film that was taken illegally, and chop it up to music. And that was a really cool exercise because, you know, you have these
like a little
in
trailer.
your head. Yeah, it was like a music video. So I'd find like a song. I remember I cut like, you know, 300. Remember that Spartan film, 300? Yeah, I remember cutting that to like, but I liked to juxtapose it with like some other song that you wouldn't expect. So I think I did like 30 Seconds to Mars or something. Yeah, it was cool. And then those
were all the songs that were being used in like the early 2000s compilations.
Totally.
I used to watch heaps of wrestling ones, and it was always 30 Seconds to Mars.
Yeah, 30 Seconds to Mars. I think it was like From Yesterday or something.
Yeah.
And I remember chopping Michael Bay's The OG Transformers. This is before there was, you know, 10, 15 Transformers. This was, I remember chopping that film to like, I think it was like POD or something. Yeah, like, and it was a really cool exercise to do as a kid, you know, like you had these visions in your head, you played a song and you got inspired by the visuals. So I'd find a movie and you'd have to try and tell that movie in like 2-3 minutes to music. Yeah. So
were you showing this to people, or was it just little projects
it was just
yourself?
For me, really. And then I put it on YouTube. No one really watched them. And then it was like in late high school where I just kept coming back to like using the camera that they had, a video camera there, and they would be at what was it, like the you know, you'd be in the school hall watching a presentation. And I remember like the vice principal put some video up, and I remember because I'd been editing all these videos, and I remember being like, this is so bad. Like, and then I went up to that vice principal and I was like, hey, can I edit a video for the school? And he was like, sure, you know, you're taking work off my hands. Yeah. So, and we didn't have a media department or anything. So I ended up picking up
that day you became the media department.
Yeah. Well, and I
was this in New Zealand?
This was in Albany Creek here in Queensland.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was from New Zealand. Dad was in the army, and we would, as an army family would, you'd move every like 2 years. So it was pretty. I'll be honest.
The
it's
reason
pretty
I asked
tough.
is more so because I went to Rangitoto College in Auckland,
Yeah.
and that they had heaps of creative stuff like media classes, photography
Amazing.
classes. So I was
Yeah.
just curious to know
Oh,
where that was.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I would have loved that.
Yeah, knowing
And
that
now
it
there's
doesn't
so
happen in
many-
other schools is pretty. I'm thankful that I had teachers like actually showing me the way, because
Yeah.
even when I first came over to film school here, there were a lot of people that hadn't learned the basics of
Yeah.
the things that I learned in like year 10, year 11 kind
Yeah,
of thing.
that was me as
Yeah.
well. Like, you know, it's just cool now. You're seeing like kids with schools these days. They're like got all these like they've got laptops and computers, and they've got cameras and editing programs, and I think that's great.
It's more accessible these days.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't find that like that's more potential competition coming along? Like you like it? You want more people in the game?
Oh man, like change is coming. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's the democratization of filmmaking has been coming for a long time. Like it's happening now, right?
Yeah.
Like if you got one of one of these, you're a filmmaker if you
Yeah.
want. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? This is a powerful tool. That's a really interesting time. This is probably another tangent, but there's never been more filmmakers than there are right now.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you should be worried about that. I think you should just focus on you and focus on your own craft. Competition, man, you can't control that. You
Yeah.
know what I can control is my own effort, my own ability. You know, me getting up, reading books, training at the gym, going for a run, learning about the latest cameras. I can control that. So I wouldn't worry about competition. I'd worry about you getting better.
Just get better.
This is coming a little earlier in the conversation than I expected, right? But I've been thinking the last few days about, do you know what I mean when I say like you've got an eye for the camera, or like you've got the photographer's eye, right? Do you know what I mean? Like the gist of that is you can see something and you can put a camera to it and you're going to get a nice angle of it.
Yeah,
like you can
sure.
see it, whereas, you know, some people that have never picked up a camera, it's going to look a bit janky kind of thing. I've been working with some photographers recently who are pretty green, and like you can just see they don't have the eye yet, maybe. My question to you is, do you think you can learn the eye?
Absolutely.
It's not an
Anything
innate thing?
can be learned. Obviously, you grow up with certain gifts. I've been having these visions and images in my head since I was young. So naturally, you're naturally better at it. But I'm a big believer, like anything can be learned. If you want to learn something, you can do it.
Yep.
You've just got to put in the hours. You know, it's the whole 10,000 hours thing.
Yeah.
And if someone is better than you at the start, sweet, good for them. But outwork them. You know what I mean? So I used to play American football like recently, and the great thing in American football is they teach you reps. Reps. And I think that's something where people in the arts can learn from high level athletes. Is like, I always use this example. Do you think you can get to the Olympics with doing minimal reps? You can't.
Definitely
You need
not.
good coaching and you need good training. And I really believe in the arts, it's the same thing. Except you're not at the gym. You're taking like a camera around.
Yeah.
My
And
whole
you're taking
career,
photos
Yeah.
every single day.
I've
my whole
seen-
career,
Yeah.
I've paralleled it with basketball for the
Yeah.
same reason, because they
Totally.
teach the same
Michael
thing.
Jordan,
like
right?
Yeah.
Michael Jordan did become Michael Jordan without taking probably millions of shots,
Yeah.
right? Imagine how many shots he missed. It's just what
Also,
you're
watching
willing
other
to
people
do.
shoot, like
Yeah.
seeing how other people do it.
Totally.
everything.
I've
And
seen
you
you post cool stuff on Instagram of you just practicing moving cameras and stuff,
Yeah.
different goals and stuff.
Yeah,
like
I
that.
really learned that. It's funny, I was always kind of obsessive, you know, I've always been like that.
Yeah.
But being Polynesian, like, we love sport, right? Love it. And I realized that's a really great strength to take to the arts is that, and I learned it was funny enough in COVID. I started playing American football because I was like, cool, I want to give it a go. And it's quite adventurous. And that's one of my values is adventure. And I don't know if you guys know with American football, like there's this crazy practice culture, right? It's not just about the game. It's about not just practice, but are you staying after practice? Are you getting early to practice? And then how much weights are you doing? Are you doing reps outside of practice? So it's like this incredible, like infectious passion and optimism and competitiveness. And when you really dive into it, it was this team called the Bayside Ravens, who are like 5-time champs, by the way, of Southeast Queensland. And it was there that I learned about this practice culture, right? And so I dived straight into it, and I went to the gym more, and I would go and practice at the park, you know, by myself. And I'd watch, and they have this great thing with football is like about studying tape, which I didn't learn in rugby. You would sit down with your teammates and you would watch film And they would point out, be like, hey, Lucas,
Yeah.
I need you to be tighter here. Hey, Lucas, like this incredible attention to detail and feedback. And so it came to a point where I had to choose, like, do I want to be an amateur gridiron player or do I want to be like, you know, a camera and steady cam operator?
So you're really serious about that.
Yeah, and I was like,
Considering
cool.
that,
I
yeah.
can't make the NFL. You know, I would have loved to one day. But, you know, I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
But I can try and make the NFL the film game.
Yeah.
So I was like, great, I'm going to take this work ethic that I've learned and I'm going to put it over here and put it into film.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get up early and I'm going to go for runs. I'm going to come home and I'm going to work out my business. I'm going to study. I'm going to read books. I'm going to learn how like successful people, you know, how they operate.
Yeah.
What's their mindset. I'm going to learn about business. And then I'm going to go lift gym, like weights in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And it's not about, it's about what are you willing to do to get there?
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm willing to do that.
Was
Other
there a time where
people-
you weren't? And
Definitely.
you had to realize, all right, I'm only coasting right now. I need to go.
Oh man, I used
Yeah?
to coast a lot. Yeah, I was like, I'm.
And
like
where was that getting you? Nowhere.
Well, yeah, like I had a lot of success early. I had a bit of a chip on my chip on the shoulder when I left high school because I got an average mark. So I was like, screw this. I'm going to prove people wrong. I'm not a dumbass, you know. And I went to TAFE, did pretty well, did this amazing TAFE course. And then I was like, cool, I want to keep studying. I want to go to Griffith Film School. So went into Griffith Film School. A few of us TAFE kids. And obviously, you know, we're the TAFE kids. The uni kids are like, who are these guys? And I came in being like, I'm going to try and top this class. Like, you know, I'm at a disadvantage. I'm a Polynesian kid from like a working class background. I've come from TAFE. I'm coming in. There's all these like private school kids. I'm going to try and dominate. And it's funny because I say that, but then I became friends with everyone and they're all my friends. But I ended up winning the cinematography award and just, yeah, worked really hard. That was great. Had a lot of success. Also went to AFTRS in 2013. So I was one of 10 to be accepted into that school to study cinematography. It was great. But then definitely when I was in Sydney, you know, I don't know if you've been to Sydney, it's very social. It's very fun. And I think because I'd spent so much of my early years in film, all of a sudden, you know, there's girls, there's parties, there's drinking.
A lot of distractions.
A lot of distractions, exactly. And, you know, when you're young, you're kind of like just all of a sudden you're in this party scene and you're hanging out and you're socializing, you're going to restaurants and you're eating out. And look, it was great for a while, but definitely, you know, going freelance in the film industry is fucking hard. I'm sure you guys...
Yeah, we know.
It's hard, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We know.
It's hard. Like, everyone in film knows that.
Yeah.
So you leave, you know, the National Film School, you leave that, and you're like, cool, I want to be a DOP. I'm in Sydney, let's do it.
Yeah.
Then you're surrounded by all these distractions, and then, yeah, and then all of a sudden, like, you don't have a consistent income. You don't really know how to handle business.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then all of a sudden you throw in, like, you wake up in the morning, I have no idea. You're your own boss. I don't know how to structure my day.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the advantage of being in Brisbane. People say it's a bit slower and boring, but there's less distractions.
Yeah.
Should focus on your career a bit
I
more.
think there's less, but there's still the same distractions, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a lot of distractions in certain parts, like Burleigh and on the Gold
You
Coast.
go down to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, it's like a party scene down there. But I think, where were we going with this? We were just talking about
Where was the flip? Where you kind of realized that you that you were coasting and you had to double down or change your lifestyle, whatever did happen.
Yeah.
it was probably towards the back end of Sydney. Like, it's a pretty crazy story. Like, I basically became like well known in social scenes as like a boat party guy. You know what I mean?
Party.
Yeah, we would go on, like, my friend. He's a wealthy friend. He'd have a boat, and we'd go on that boat, and we'd party, and we'd fly drones around illegally, and we'd film it, and we'd put it on social media, and then the boat parties got more and more. I got invited onto super yachts. I ended up hiring out a super yacht for my 29th birthday and for my 30th birthday. It was insane. This friendship group was amazing. Like, really friendly, positive people.
But were you finding work?
Exactly.
Were these yacht videos work, or just you having
Some
fun
of them,
doing
one
it?
was, and then one was just like,
It's like, that's a pretty interesting
Yeah, the
niche
yacht
if you
niche.
fell into it. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Could
like,
be Australia's best yacht.
yeah, and no, but it was a fun time. But I look back on that, and it's such a different version of me.
Mm.
But
do you regret that? Or are you happy you've had that
there are a
experience?
few regrets, yeah,
There
for
are.
sure. I think at the time, you're just a young lad, just not thinking things through and just going, all right, I'll do this. But what that was temporary fun. It's
Yep.
not long-term fun,
Yeah.
right? That's a Saturday and maybe a Sunday if you want to keep kicking on.
Yeah.
But
Not the
that's
whole
not Monday to
lifestyle.
Friday. Like then you're hungover and then you're feeling shit. And then because like you're not your best self to operate during the week, you know, and you're a freelancer, all of a sudden, oh, I'll take Monday off and all that. And so that's what happened is my business started stalling. Like I was doing really well. I was shooting documentaries, commercials.
Yeah.
I flew to Europe a couple times. I went to China for a documentary.
Yeah.
I was flying around the country. So definitely a bit of ego and like overconfidence there that the good times would just keep rolling.
Yeah.
But that's complacency, right? I got too comfortable. All of a sudden you think you're like this fun boat party person and then the phone stops ringing. Hello. Yeah. So, and then I knew towards the end of 2017, I was like, even though I loved all those people down there, I knew that in this environment, I'm going to keep being distracted. So at the end of the lease of this house, this amazing house, which had like all these awesome people, they're like family to me, but I knew I had to make the tough decision to go back to Brisbane and focus on work. And then even then coming back to Brisbane, that was a shock to the system. Like, have you guys moved away and then come back? Like,
I'm from Melbourne and then moved to Brisbane.
Neither of us are from here, so
yeah. I think when you live here and you go away and like somewhere like Sydney, which is like full of life, and then you come back to Brisbane, well, now it's like a full like international city now.
Yeah.
But when I first came back, like the pace was so much slower.
That's why I want to know, why did you come back to Brisbane then? Why did you not think maybe I should go to Melbourne or
Well, it
something
sounds like
that?
you wanted a quieter place where you could
I wanted to
focus more.
But did you know if there was any potential of doing well here? Was
Well,
there an
the
industry
funny
here
thing
at
is,
the time?
while I was in Sydney, I was flying back and forth for work, right? So,
Okay.
and that's where I built a lot of my, networks was in Brisbane. Whereas Sydney was a hard one to crack because I hadn't had that foundation. Whereas
Brisbane's more
this is-
tight knit. Everyone
Yeah.
knows each
And
other more.
I'd pretty much became like I was a camera assistant for a short time, had all these networks in Brisbane. So I knew that by coming back, I knew everyone. Like I was part of the committee back then. This was like 2011 and 12. I was part of the committee back then. So it was just like sort yourself out, go back to family, reset.
Yeah.
And it was basically COVID when everything really hit a low. And that was probably one of the toughest times of my life.
So how far was that into your career?
I don't know. What's the calculation?
Did you say 2011 or something?
I started about 2008, actually.
Okay.
So I've been in since I was...
Been in for a while.
Like
over a decade.
7? I've been in the industry now 17 years. I got in... When I was at TAFE, I was camera assisting on the side as well.
Cool.
So I've been in for
Did
like
you learn
17
more from
years.
the camera assisting or from the classes or both?
Camera assisting and the ACS workshops that were going. Film school, I've always said, is great for portfolio, it's great for networking, and it's great to use the gear and facilities. Yeah. What they actually teach you is not... It's far from what actually happens in the industry. And
it's
it
stuff
is what
that you need like 20 years down the line kind of thing.
And it's that's the problem with, I could go on another rant about modern education, but look, you got the government trying to do tick boxes and tell us what the arts, what you need to teach in the arts. And it's so far behind.
Yeah.
So a lot of people leave film school and they're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Where do I go? How do I invoice? How do I do my taxes? Like, how do I get a job? We all went through that and we had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a tangent.
During those hard times, during the lockdown,
during COVID,
like what were the thoughts going through your mind?
Oh, dude, like, gonna be straight up. So I had a big breakup. Someone that you think you're gonna get married to. Yeah. So that happened.
And was that like COVID put strain on that, or that was just naturally gonna?
No, this was just before lockdown, so we already had our issues, and she's a great person. And so that happened, and then all of a sudden, pandemic. Oh yeah, there was bushfires. Remember that? Anyway, that was a crazy year.
Yeah.
Lost all my work, as you did. So, and then all of a sudden, of course, I used to live down the road in Newstead and had to end that apartment. So no house, no partner, no home. all I had was a car.
No world.
Yeah.
No world to go to.
World stopped. Like, yeah, it was the end of the world.
Yeah. At least you had a car.
Yeah, exactly.
Car to go wherever.
You know what? That's a great thing.
Any gear? Any equipment? Like camera stuff?
No. Again, that's another thing where I should have had a camera back then. But, yeah, it was. But that's a great perspective. Is yes, I did have a car and I did have a loving family. So I went back to that family. I moved. Here's me. I think I was 31 at the time, right? Ring up my dad. The world's ending, and I'm like, hey man, I don't know what's going on with this lockdown, but can I move back home?
I was the same. I had to move back to my mum's.
Yeah. Well, you do, right? That's my general, like, my rule of thumb. Not that I've been in many crises, but if there's another crisis, go home to family.
Yeah.
Go deal with your loved ones and figure it out.
Because they probably want you there just as much as you need to be with them, right? In times like that.
Heck, if there's another pandemic, hopefully, touch wood, there isn't, or a war or something, I'm going to family. Go to family and figure it out. So Dad, being the legend that he is, goes, yeah, man, come move back home. So I moved back home, and to be honest, I felt like a loser. Absolute loser. I'm like, here's me, 31 years old, no partner, no house.
Yeah.
No
but
work.
it makes a good story of you turning your life around.
Exactly. It does make a great story, right? And so that's the key. This is the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
So here's me sitting at home in this like tiny bedroom. The bed is so small, my feet hang off the end.
Going from Newstead to that.
Going
from Sydney to super yachts.
Yeah,
to
going from super
your 30th
yachts.
birthday on a super yacht to 31.
Here's me. I was like this crazy party guy in Sydney.
Yeah.
You know, on top of super yachts and that, and all of a sudden it's like COVID and all that in like my parents' guest bedroom, wondering like, what the hell am I doing here? Like,
do you feel like that's your destiny for a while? Or it was just a temporary?
No, so
temporary.
One thing my father taught me was the power of mindset. And if you think that, yeah, it will be your story.
Yeah.
And so this is where I love, like, you know, we're in film and the power of story and how story can, you know, it can create ideologies, it can create movements. It can like, you know, it can compel an athlete to come back from an amazing, you know, like score. Like, I don't know if you've seen Atlanta Falcons and the Patriots. Oh man, 28-3.
Yeah.
Man, it's like the best comeback in Super Bowl history. And you can hear one of the players, Julian Edelman, going, "It's going to be a hell of a story, boys. It's going to be a hell of a story." He was telling himself a story of a comeback story.
Yeah.
So I find filmmaking like it's so powerful. Like, you know, you tell a story, it's going to change someone's life. And so I told myself a comeback story. I was like, I'm not going to let this, I feel like a loser. I can keep being like a loser. If I tell myself I'm a loser and this is what I'll do, I'll just, you know, go work somewhere and have a shit life. If you say that, it's going to happen. Yeah. You're already lost. So I knew I couldn't think like that. I was like, I'm going to turn this around. This is not going to be my story. I'm going to come back from this. Yeah. But I knew I needed a plan. And then it's kind of like everyone always goes, oh, like, so what do you want to do? That's what everyone says. What do you want to do with your life? And I think a better question is, who do you want to become? And that's your values. So there's no point asking like what we want to do if we don't know who we are. And so I had to do some deep soul searching during that time, right? So I had to be like, all right, who do I want to become? Like, what are my values? What's most important to me? What are my priorities? And I remember vividly, because I've told this story a few times, I sat on the floor, had a whiteboard, and I wrote out my 5 values that I could come up with. And they were lead, inspire, help, adventure. Oh my God, what was the other? Strong.
Strong.
I almost forgot. Strong.
Yeah. So you're always very adventurous.
Adventure's number one. Like, I think since I was a little kid, because of Jurassic Park, because of Star Wars.
I think to be in the film industry, you have to be very adventurous.
Yeah.
You never know where you're going to end up.
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty ADHD, so I think I chase the dopamine. Yep. It's really important to me. Like, I need adventure.
Yep.
Inspire. I want to inspire Polynesian kids so that they can be more and do more than just rugby. I don't know. It's up to them to decide. Yeah. That's just not up to me to decide.
This journey's not over, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd love to inspire young Polynesian kids that they can, you know, whatever they want, they can do it. Because Polynesians, you grow up in like these poor areas and you think you're dumb. You think you can't do it. And so I'm so blessed that my parents weren't like that. They were like, Dad was like, anything you want to do, you can do it. You just got to sort out your mindset. So I want to inspire. I want to lead. I want to be a good leader. And not because I'm like, look at me, but I want to like take care of people. I want to like look after the community. It's not about me. It's about the group.
Yeah.
What else was it? Strong. I want to be physically and mentally strong. That's just self-explanatory. It's a big value of mine. And then what was the other one? I was missing one. Help. I want to help people. I think a lot of my life, super yachts, all these things, film, was all about me. And I'm like, I don't want to just be all about me. I want to do something for people, you know? And so once you figure out those values, you kind of go, right, now I know that's my priorities in life. Now I can figure out what fits that. And I was like, okay, well, do I keep doing film or do I quit and join the army like my dad? And I was like, well, film's adventurous. I'll keep doing that, you know? And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, well, strong. I've got to get fit. So I started running, started lifting. And then help was a big one as well. And I was like, how can I help people? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, I'm not a doctor or surf lifesaver. So I was like, well, like, it's funny. I used to send these funny voicemails to my mates in like ridiculous accents. And one of my friends used to be like, you need to be in radio. And so, yeah, I was like, well, what if I started a podcast? It was a massive cliche during lockdown. There was so many podcasts starting. But I was like, why don't I help people in film? I'm pretty good at like giving advice to like all the young ones. I've failed enough to like, you know, tell them what not to do. So yeah, I started a podcast back then. And this story, this is a great comeback story. So I start this podcast, people around the country start listening to it because it's really niche. It's about career advice for film. It's called Cinematographer, plug. And so I started doing that. People were listening. And then all of a sudden, Queensland, Australia becomes one of the safest places to film in the world during COVID. So we get this COVID boom. Like everyone's trying to film in Queensland. Just my luck, right? And it just so happens I move out and move in with a mate, and this is related. And he's like, dude, do you want to come play American football? And I was like, no. I'm going to get injured. Like, why would I play American football? I'm 31. Like, I'm way too old for that shit. But then I was like, remembered my values. I was like, well, it's adventurous. Fuck it. World's ending. Let's go play gridiron. So I start playing American football. So this is related. People listening to my podcast, and one of them, his name is Marty McGrath, ACS. He's an amazing, beautiful human. And he just so happens to be shooting one of the biggest shows in Queensland, which is Young Rock. Young Rock has American football scenes in it.
Because The Rock was into gridiron.
Yeah, because The Rock played American football.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going? This is crazy, right? Here's a Samoan fella. I'm Samoan. And he used to play American football for the University of Miami, the Hurricanes.
Florida, yeah.
Yeah. And so they've got to shoot these American football scenes. So Marty's listening to my podcast. He follows me on Instagram, sees I'm playing American football for the Bayside Ravens. And he goes, and they've got to shoot these football scenes. They're freaking out because it's him and the director. They're Aussies. Well, they're not freaking out. They're just worried. They're like...
They're not going to get it right.
Yeah, exactly. So he says, hey, man, can we meet up for a coffee? So we meet up for a coffee. And he goes, basically offers me a job. He says, do you want to shoot C camera for these scenes? And I was like, heck yeah. And so that was supposed to be at the end of the shoot. 2 weeks into this shoot of Young Rock, I get a phone call being like, what are you doing next week? We need you now. So all of a sudden, I went from no work, you know what I mean, like, to working on the biggest job of my career. And then all of a sudden, my teammates from the Ravens, they're extras on set.
I was thinking you were going to say you played on the...
Like, no, it was crazy. And so what happens is, like, I'm working on this, like, huge American, first US television credit of my career. I'm an operator. Got my teammates, they're on set as extras. Then we'd go and do training that night. And then we go and win a championship that year. And then, like, I don't know about you guys. Like, I don't believe in fate. I really don't.
But things fall into place like that,
dude,
something's got to be running it.
Like, just by living into your values, right? I want to help people. I started a podcast. I wanted to do adventures, so I started playing American football. Then all of a sudden, I'm on the biggest job of my career about a Samoan guy who used to play football. and my teammates are on set, and I win a championship that year.
Yeah.
That's a comeback story. I don't know about you guys.
What that reminds me of, I don't necessarily believe in fate, but I'm a huge believer in energy. And what that sounds like to me is the energy you're putting out there is the energy you get back. And I'm a huge believer in that. You can walk into a room, and if you have your head down, you don't want to talk to anyone, no one's going to talk to you.
Yeah.
If you walk into that room, your chest is up, you're like inviting, people are going to talk to you. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think you were putting these energies out there, and people were receiving it.
Yeah.
Did you reflect a lot on how you started that year afterwards?
Oh, dude, me being the social media person I am, I put a big post out there just reflecting on that. Like,
because it's easy to forget about that once everything's going well.
The lowest of the low, man. Yeah. Like, you're living at your dad's house as a 31-year-old. You don't know what's happening with the world.
Yeah.
And I just felt like a loser. And then all of a sudden, like, you start living into your values, and you have this big turnaround. And now, so that job, and this is why I always loved Marty McGrath ACS. Like, this man gave me a job, and then I thought, well, operating's pretty sick. Like, I've never worked on drama before. I've got my first US credit. I think I want to be an operator. So I went from being a cinematographer, and this is why people always ask me, like, why did you go to be an operator? Because in the hierarchy, I was like, I can either be a cinematographer on small jobs, like documentaries and commercial, or I can maybe be a camera operator.
Yeah.
Like, maybe one day, like on a Jurassic Park or something. Yeah. I was like, this is more in line with what I need to do.
Yeah.
Plus more consistent pay.
And do you get more of a thrill being on massive sets than smaller projects?
Maybe not. Massive isn't, like, yeah, you do get a thrill being on those sets, but they're not always the best sets, to be honest. Sometimes they're really stressful.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Exactly. So it depends on the project. It depends on the people. Mostly the leaders. If the people at the top are a bit stressy, that rolls downhill. Yeah. And so sometimes you'll be on a big job and it isn't as great as a smaller job. Yeah. Like, I just did a job in WA for Stan. Amazing job. Like, so...
Yeah. So I guess you've seen everything. You've seen the best and the worst.
Bigger doesn't always mean better. Yeah. You know what I mean? It really depends on the script, the cast, the crew, and especially the leaders on each film set. If the leaders are great people... I just worked on that Stan series, Invisible Boys, and I had Jason Hargreaves, ACS, director Nick Verso, such kind, empathetic leaders that it just trickles down, you know? Yeah. But to go back... Sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but to what you were saying about energy, if a lot of people don't know their values, do you guys know your values at all?
I think
it's okay if you don't.
I think mine are always evolving. But I know
they do.
I have core values.
We've written
100%.
stuff down together.
Yeah,
we need
I
to
think
put
it's
on the
really
whiteboard.
good to, like, you don't have to do that, but once I realized this is what their values, priorities, whatever you want to call it, that is what most important to you. So now that I know that becomes your compass for life. You know,
and when
like,
something tries to pull you in a certain direction, you instantly know.
You look at your compass and you go, "Is this
You're like, nah,
towards
that
my
doesn't feel
values?"
right.
No,
it's a different way to doing it than planning out. Like, I want to be in this exact position.
Yeah,
like a role.
Say there's like a friendship, and you guys are having an argument, and it's maybe not going so well.
Yeah.
So you have to decide: do I want to try and repair this friendship, or do I let this go? Yeah. If you look at your compass and they align with your values, then you should try and get back with that friend and be like, "Hey, I'm sorry." But if they don't, maybe
probably better for both of you to split ways. Yeah.
And I find, like, when you've got this compass of your values, you can navigate life way easier. You know, it's like, okay, does this job align with my values? It doesn't. See ya.
I like the simplicity of that as well.
Yeah.
Like, you could write it down in a few minutes.
That's what it was reminding me of, because there was a time when I was like, I want to say 16 to 18, where funnily enough, I just decided to make a lot of decisions literally with the flip of a coin, because it was less stress, right? And then, do I want pizza? Do I want Subway? I flip a coin, it lands on heads. If heads was pizza, but I actually wanted Subway, I kind of know, right? So that was probably without having values. Yeah. It was like the simple way of making decisions without thinking.
There's a lot
now it's the same process, but I don't have to flip a coin. The coin is my feeling, my gut, essentially.
Yeah. I've found ever since I knew those values, I just follow them now. Yeah. That guides me. And so there's this other thing what happens when you follow your compass, right? You have this thing called fulfilment, aka being fucking proud of yourself. Yeah. And that's the best shit ever. So we talked about, like, those super yacht times and whatever. I was like this big party guy, and that's temporary fun. And I wasn't proud of who I was. Like, I look back on that, I'm like, oh.
Maybe you had to do that to know what you really
Well,
wanted
it wasn't my values, right?
Yeah.
That's not who I want to be known as. I don't want to be known as the boat party guy. I want to be known as Lucas Tomoana, camera operator. Yeah. You know what I mean? I want to be known for all those things that I listed before.
Yep.
And now I follow them and I get fulfillment.
You can
and
do the boat
fulfillment
party.
just is that is the engine room for energy, which is a great word.
It's like you can do the boat party after you win your Oscar for working so hard.
Oh, even then, probably not, man.
Even
like,
then, no.
to be honest, I'll probably
You
go
could
for a
just-
run because you know
Just
what?
go
One of
for
my values is strength.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to go for it. Like I did a, 10K run today.
Yeah.
It was hard, but it's my values and I
Yeah.
feel fucking proud of myself.
Yeah.
That's something I wanted
know
to
what I
talk about because I actually find you posting about your fitness journey really inspiring.
Mm.
Because I think a lot of people in the film industry find it very hard to keep up with their fitness
It is hard.
because, like, the shoots are random hours, obviously.
Yeah,
You don't get
12-hour
sleep
days sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
and all of that.
I have a saying like, look after your mind, look after your body, and look after others, right? So mental health, physical health, connection.
Yeah.
For me, they're like the building blocks we need to succeed, If we don't have that, then fuck,
Yeah.
like
Ha-
we're going
have
to
you-
struggle. So,
How do you fit that in when you're on the, like, really long 3-month shoots and all that sort of stuff?
WA, like, to be honest, there is you don't have a routine, right? Because we're on night shoots today. Oh, we're in a desert today, right?
Yeah.
And like, we're doing, an hour of overtime today. So every day, every week, I'm finding a gap where I can squeeze in a workout. So when I'm not, I took this from football. So when I'm not shooting, I call that off season, right? So you've got time. So guess what? That's great. So you're not working. Me personally, I do 2 workouts a day. Well, try to. Run in the morning, lift in the afternoon. It's called hybrid training. And I really like that. That works for me. I'm not saying everyone should do that. Like, don't everyone bite my head off for that. But I call that off season. So that's my time to like really dial into my fitness. When you're shooting, it's like you're in football season, right? So it's about maintenance and just trying to take care of yourself. So even if it's a walk or it's like a couple of times I was like in a rush and I was like, fuck, I just went to the gym and did like, I think it was like 20 minutes of press ups and pull ups. Better than nothing.
Yeah.
Some is
Get
better than
something
none.
in. Yeah.
Right? And so the big thing as well, which people don't talk about, is diet. Well, nutrition.
Yeah.
Nutrition on set is like,
Pizza's always
Yeah,
the
sometimes it's
fucking
just Subway
meal.
or pizza.
yeah, honestly, there needs to be some serious discussions about nutrition,
Yeah.
and the caterers have gotten better,
Yeah.
but there needs to do you guys know French hours? Have you guys
Yeah,
ever
I've
done
heard
French
about
hours?
that.
Yeah, so
Where you don't take a
basically
break. just
you
eat
don't
through
take
the
a
day.
lunch
Oh,
break.
French hours, right?
Yeah. So you don't have a lunch break, and so that what you do is you get hand around food. So they come around. It's got
nibbles.
pros and cons, yeah, but I find it really hard because it's almost that you're set up to lose because they'll come up
Yeah.
and put like
Chocolates and stuff.
chocolate and
Cupcake,
sugar right in
yeah,
front of
yeah.
you, and like like it's temptation,
Yeah.
and your mind can only like say no so many times.
Especially when you're hungry. Like
Totally.
actually
Yeah.
starving.
They
you're
get
just gonna
you,
grab
when you're at
whatever's
your weakest moment,
Yeah.
they're like, "Hey man, do you want a donut?" And I'm on the camera, I'm like, "Yes."
So I think,
Like that's human beings, all right. If you
Yeah.
keep putting that in front of us, but if it's not around,
Yeah.
then we won't eat it,
Yeah.
right? It's like when you have chocolate in the fridge. You're gonna open that fridge, you're gonna see that chocolate, you're gonna eat it, right? So I'd love if like nutrition, like that's half the battle. Well, half the battle.
Every
It's
set
like
needs a
80% of the
nutritionist, yeah.
battle is
Yeah.
nutrition.
no, I think everyone
So-
appreciates it so much when the catering is like something fancy on a set. It costs them more.
Just something healthy. Like,
Well, like,
healthy.
yeah,
When it's
not
not
exactly
pizza,
fancy,
like-
but yeah, when
Yeah.
it's something quality.
anything but
it's like-
pizza, please.
Fruit, veggies.
you'll get more out of the people
I don't
in
know,
the
anyway,
crew.
there's
on the
probably
day.
a film crew going to be like, no,
I love pizza.
Yeah, I want my
I want my Domino's.
all the unhealthy stuff, but man,
If it's a one-day
Polynesians,
shoot, but-
we gain weight quick. So
yeah.
I'm like, nah, man. I want it
It's
so.
different for you.
But in terms of your answering your question about exercise, like it's literally like day by day, week by week. I see the call sheet. I see like in WA, I knew we had late starts. So I would, before we went to this town called Geraldton, I Googled like, where's the gym? So I've got a Snap Fitness membership. And so you can go to any Snap Fitness, right?
Yeah.
And that's a 24-hour gym, which I highly recommend. Hopefully I get like some commission for Snap
Yeah, you should.
But no, 24/7 gym's great because we obviously have crazy schedules. So
Yeah.
if you can, I prefer to get in before shoot rather than like once you finish a 10, 12-hour
Just wanna
day.
sleep.
Your shoulders
I don't
are
want to go
sore,
to the
your
gym.
back's sore,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Sometimes I would, like if I could fit it in. There's no rule.
Yeah.
It's just whenever you can fit it in. But I find if you exercise before shoot, I actually ended up being happier, more energetic.
Yeah, I've found that too. When you do it in the morning, you
Right.
actually, for whatever reason, it sounds like a paradox, but you have more energy heading into
No,
the
no,
day.
exercise creates energy.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of, I think, when I went to film school, no one spoke about exercise. It was all like, we're all arts kids and
I
stuff.
did see some
like,
old guys talking about like wearing knee braces and back braces and stuff, and like you're going to need to do this in the future. And I was kind of like,
Really?
there's got to be a way to repel that, right? Like,
Maybe that's a symptom of a greater issue. Maybe we should be more like proactive about it.
so. Not just waiting till it's a problem and then band-aiding it.
Exactly.
Band-aiding it literally.
Camera equipment's heavy and it's all sorts of sizes
Yeah.
and shapes.
And for me, like as an operator, in my personal belief, like part of your job as an operator is physicality. Like I need to be fit for
Yeah, you have to be
handheld
very
and
fit.
fit for Steadicam, and then people have other specializations like gimbal and underwater, and so you got to be fit. You know
You've
what
got
I
to have a
mean?
bit of energy to you as well. I think when you're at a set, if you don't want to be, if you want to get along with everyone, you need to be like up, kind of. You
Yeah.
can't just be sort of reserved back there doing your own thing, not talking to anyone.
Well, that's the thing. Like exercise, like it's not just for athletes. It's not just for filmmakers. If you're a human being, you should be moving your body.
Yeah.
Like moving the body, and it can be whatever you want. You don't need to lift and run like I do. You can walk, you can row, you can cycle, you can climb.
Yeah.
Whatever you want, but you need to be moving your body. Like human beings are designed to be moving every day, but we live in a society that doesn't, and systems that don't allow us to do that. So until that gets fixed, we need to like take care of ourselves, and you need to exercise. Like there's all these books and they all say the same thing. Highly successful people, they get up in the morning and they train.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. You don't, if you sleep in, whatever, but if you train in the morning, you set up your day.
Yeah.
Especially bonus points if you get outdoors. You get sunshine, fresh air, dopamine, serotonin. It's all good. You're moving oxygen around your body.
That's why you came back to Queensland, so you can get outside.
It's more sun.
You know what? It's like that's one of the great things about Queensland is this. Queensland
Except
is
for
a
this last
fit.
week, but
Yeah. Queensland is a fit.
Very
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I definitely noticed that. In Sydney, everyone like drinks and parties, right? But Queensland is like everyone's playing touch football.
Yep.
Like everyone's running and walking around the river.
Yep.
Like,
I don't know how big is the gridiron scene here. I haven't heard about
it's
that
a
much.
pretty sort of like it's a subculture for sure.
Pretty
But
niche.
I will say this:
Yeah.
if you want to play American football in Australia, you get people who have to seek it out. Like people drive. There was a guy on my team. His name's Tom Hodgkinson. He'd drive from Toowoomba to come play for our team.
Dedication.
So you get really dedicated, obsessive people playing the sport.
Are half of them American?
Huh?
They-
Yeah, there's Americans, there's Canadians. I really like. I know it's a complex sport for people to watch, but there's some really amazing lessons I learned from sport.
Yeah.
I mixed with people from different culture. I learned about work ethic. I learned about teamwork. I learned about leadership
Yeah.
and feedback.
I think
oh my God.
the biggest things I've learned about leadership have been through because the way you're obsessed with gridiron is the way I'm obsessed with basketball.
Yeah,
and I just
there you
like LeBron James and JJ Redick recently released a podcast, and they're like two of the highest IQ players ever, and just the way that they break the whole thing down is so like. He also said the same thing of leadership. Like when he was young, he used to think it was about him. Like, look at me, I can lead this pack of people,
it's
and it's
not.
like no, it's actually the feeling of fulfillment you get seeing the people around you succeed, the people that you've helped.
Yeah.
That's I think I imagine people that watch football, like soccer, every sport that you're into must have those kinds of
Totally
lessons to be
It's
learned.
like the athlete mindset is actually can be. We should all learn from, because if you think about athletes, right? They need to get an outcome, a goal, and so they use their mind and their body. They're like a 24/7 athlete, right? They eat the right foods, they go to trainings, they have to learn how to work under pressure. So it's all about mind and body to produce an outcome. Now, I'm not saying you need to go to the Olympics or you need to be like a 100-meter sprinter, but I feel like everyone should have that mentality.
Yeah.
Like we should be looking after our mind and body to achieve an outcome. For me, it's camera operating. For someone else, it might be they're a boom operator. For someone else, it might be they want to be, CEO of a company.
Yeah.
You still need to have your mind and body to achieve that outcome.
The full set's like the team,
Yeah,
the sports team getting together.
totally. I've learned some of the best books I've read have been like, there's a great book called A Champion's Mind. And this guy like interviewed like 200 athletes or something and just asked them about their mindset. And I've like highlighted all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's incredible, like visualization, self-talk. You're a Kiwi, you'll love this. The Prince of Rugby, Dan Carter.
I thought you were going to say Richie McCaw, 'cause I was about to tell you Richie McCaw.
No, well,
story.
he's the king of rugby, in my opinion. You got the king, which is Richie McCaw, one of the greatest All Blacks of all. Well, he is the greatest All Black of all time. And there's another book called The Art of Winning by Dan Carter. This is so cliche. I'm a New Zealander talking about an All Black. But I read this book, and they spoke about the All Blacks. Raphael, you probably already know, but they used to choke a lot. They used to choke in World Cups, and they were heralded as one of the most successful teams, but they wouldn't win in the big game. And so after 2007, they put a lot of energy into mindset and performing under pressure. And they hired like psychologists and everything. And then they went and won back-to-back World Cups, 2011, 2015. 2011, they were under so much pressure because they had a World Cup in New Zealand, which is like the most pressure ever. And they delivered. And so I'm like, surely I can learn something off these men, right? They did something where there was so much pressure. Like New Zealand media, if you're an All Black and you are losing, you do not. That is the most brutal thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And so Dan Carter is saying in his book how he would say pressure is a privilege, right? And so then they have this thing called it's called red head, blue head, which is really interesting. So when you're in a game, blue head is when you're calm. Red head is when you basically start, you go into a panic and pressure. Yeah, exactly. You become a Super Saiyan. Well, and so when you're under pressure, there's 3 reactions. It's fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah. Right? So understanding what your reaction is, I think mine would be under pressure, fight. Dan Carter said his reaction to pressure was freeze. So they would come up with all these techniques, breathing techniques to bring. That's the thing with pressure, is that your mind goes from too much in the future, worried about what might happen, or you might be in the past because you've made a bunch of mistakes and you're worried like, I'm going to do that again. What you need to do in that situation is bring your mind into the present, which is where, they call that flow state. So if you can bring your mind, then you focus on the task at hand. Yeah. So... so you come up with all these techniques to bring you into the present, and then and not only would you understand your red head state, but you can understand your teammates' red head states, and that would bring you out of it.
So how did you apply that to filmmaking?
Exactly. So film, as an operator, there's pressure, right?
A lot,
right?
I'm sure in the early days you're stressed about every new job you get. Can I deliver? Can I do this?
Well, even to this day, do you still get stressed sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. That's just part of life. Yeah. There ain't going to be a film set where you don't get stress or perhaps pressure.
I had a friend who did a psychology course, and like in the first lesson, the first sentence is stress is unavoidable. Yeah, for everybody. Totally. I was like, sick.
Exactly. Adversity is coming. It's
especially
just
when
what are you going to do?
Every minute cost thousands.
And the thing is, by doing the mental work, I understand what's happening. When I was under pressure. So here's a great example. So I was in WA, where I had to finish on time, and there was a Steadicam shot that needed to happen, and it was basically like, these guys are going to dance at a wedding, and you've got one take to get it, because they're basically going to throw cake around and whatever, and that we need to get this now. So we had to balance the Steadicam. I'm pretty new to Steadicam, and also I'm like, don't fuck this up. It's also in like 50 frames or 75 frames. So if you fuck it up, it's going to be twice as slow, right? And so, but I knew that I was in this state of like, okay, I'm feeling pressure. And it's all about good self-talk. Because, a lot of people going, what if it goes wrong? Here's a great question. What if it goes right? You know what I mean? And then so I realized, I was like, take a few deep breaths, bring yourself into the present, focus on the task at hand. So when I do a big shot, I take a couple of breaths, and then I grit my teeth, and then I say some shit like, let's fucking get it, or whatever, or let's go. And guess what? We got that shot. And I learned that from a book, from a rugby player. Right? So I think there's so many great lessons to be learned.
You probably have moments like that every day.
Sets. All the time.
There's not too many shots there's shots where you don't have a second option, obviously.
Yeah, and it's not just shot. You can apply that to anything. Anytime you're feeling like pressure. So I think there's a lot to be learned from from athletes. Sorry, that was a huge rant.
It just shows your love of sport as well.
I totally agree with it though as well. But I'm keen to sort of wrap back around to how you got involved with the ACS Queensland. How do you become the VP of an organisation like that? How do you sort of actually go up the ladder and build a reputation?
Look, ACS Queensland, like for me, it's not. I didn't become vice president for the title. I did it to give back. You know, it's for me, it's a responsibility to the community. And so the committee, anyone can join the committee. You know what I mean? You can be like, so I knew that in order for me to like earn people's trust and respect, like it's the best thing you can do if you don't know anyone in the industry and you want to get into like camera or lighting or gripping department, join the ACS, right? Join communities. And when you join communities, you get a lot of this face-to-face time. And that's the best networking ever. Screw this, like, yes, social media, yes, you can email someone, yes, you can call someone, but nothing beats talking to someone face-to-face. That's where you build trust. And you do that by joining a community like the ACS. Or if you're in America, you join the ASC or the SOC, which is the operator organization. Yeah. So I knew that it was a great place for me to network. And I knew also, in order for me to get respect and to gain these people's trust, you need to work for them. So I joined the committee when I was a young lad, like it was like 2011 or 12, and said that, hey, do you want to help do this? Hey, do you want to carry this? Yes, sir. Copy that. You know. So I would do that, and then after I went to Sydney, had that fun time, came back. You know, I basically rejoined the committee because I was like, cool, this is where I give back to community, right? And this is the thing with the ACS. It's volunteer run. No one gets paid to do any of that. Yeah. So my hat goes off to anyone on a committee, volunteer. It's a lot of time and effort. So we organize awards and workshops. We do it all to give back to community. And so to become vice president, basically, I decided I wanted to step up because I wanted to take more initiative with helping lead the way with some workshops. I think there was a period, to be very honest, where and I think it's because of COVID and everything, we weren't active enough. As Queensland, as a branch, we weren't active enough. And so I think this is when I'd be on set and people didn't want to join because they were like, why? I'm going to pay a membership, but nothing happens. That's what they were saying. And I basically said, right, well, we've got to change this. So I went into a leadership position, and now I'm proud to say we're one of the more active branches in the country. We're probably the most active branch in the country.
Nice.
Yeah. You know, we run, workshops to help upskill people. And I'm pretty proud of the committee. So, I
what
basically...
kind of responsibilities does it entail?
Sorry?
What kind of responsibilities does it entail for you?
Look, there's no set, you have to look after this, but we've got monthly committee meetings. The awards night is the big night of the year. And so that we usually delegate those tasks up. Someone's got to organize a photographer, we might get a red carpet this year, the lighting, we've got to set it up. Then also I would run the presentation. So there's a keynote that happens up on the screen. For the past 3 years, I have to set that up. I'll be honest, it takes you weeks to set that thing up. Yeah. Late nights, I'd be falling asleep at my laptop. But, I do it because it's through sweat equity that you earn everyone's respect and trust. Yeah. And plus, it's part of my values is I want to give back. So it's not just about, networking. It's just about living into my values.
When you're starting out in the industry, it's very overwhelming to meet people who have been in the industry for a while. So it's
you almost feel like you couldn't hold a conversation with them, right? Like you don't.
Yeah. But with you, I found you very approachable. I was surprised.
Oh, really?
For a second. I was like, man. I don't know how people are going to be. They've been in the industry. Why would they want to speak to someone starting out?
The thing is, if there's someone like that, then that's really wrong.
Yeah, that's a shame. Like how you said in the very beginning, want more people.
Dude, we all started somewhere. Yeah. I remember wandering into the ACS and being I don't know anyone. I remember my first film set. It's not that long ago.
Remember the first time you picked up a camera, had no idea what all the buttons did?
So, I have absolute empathy when people come in, walking in, it's you feel like a fish out of water, right? And it's all these people. And so if someone's rude to you, that's really... Also, it's really dumb. I will say this, if people listening to this, is... You want to play the long game. Yeah,
we always say this. You never know who's going to talk to who and say, this guy was a dick to me.
I'm telling you right now, there's a young person who's going to walk on your set, and they're going to be the next big thing.
It's going to be Claudio Celio. Shout out.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be Claudio, right?
Yeah.
And Claudio's going to hire us. No, but honestly, you should treat everyone with respect and kindness because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But also because kindness is good for business.
Yeah.
And this literally happened to me. I had a runner on a job. It was a documentary. And we got on like a house on fire. We were really good. She worked really hard. And respect goes both ways.
Yeah.
She then gets funding for a short film.
Yeah.
Who does she call?
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, that runner, you know, that person helping out the camera department,
All part of the same team.
Yeah, people in the unit department, you never know who's going to become who or who's related to who. Or like, and also someone who you think is the runner is probably the executive producer. So treat everyone like an executive producer. Just treat everyone with kindness and respect because it will come back. Like, I promise you, you'll get this actually happened one time. I got a call from a guy 7 years later and he goes, "Hey man, I don't know if you remember me, but you know, I was at NIDA in Sydney and you were at Afters. And anyway, I saw your name on a list and I remember you just being a really good guy. And so we got this project and I feel like you should shoot it because we don't know anyone else." From like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's the long game, right? So it might, you know, you just keep putting good energy and good karma out there. I promise you, like 5 years later, 9 years later, someone from your film school is going to be like, "Dude, what are you doing? You know, come shoot this."
We've seen a lot of that. People you don't know are thinking about you at all. They just message you and they're like, "Come on this shoot." That's something I love about this industry. You probably don't get that with most industries, with a lot of other industries.
Yeah, like the you haven't seen someone for like 5 years, but you still just come together and collaborate. That's true. That probably doesn't happen in too many other places.
Yeah, it's I love it, but it's also strange, right? You have like, I just spent 3 months in Western Australia with these amazing film crew. I was like, I was a bit sad to leave.
Yeah.
But then you kind of
like
spending every single day together, and then it's like you get this post-shoot depression because you're like, I don't get to see them now, and I'll probably run into them and you know, catch up with them later.
How do you get back into your normal life after that?
Oh man! First of all, you got to rest. You got to rest.
Got to rest for a few weeks. Or
Yeah.
How long? Actually?
Sharpen the axe. Like you got to. Like I think I rested for I think I slept for like a week. I just didn't. Also, you got to celebrate. You know, like.
Like, holy
yes,
shit, I just did
hustle
this.
when I work hard, but you know, you just finished. I just finished a shoot, so you know, went out, had some nice dinners, and you know, stayed in a hotel room and just chilled out. And
must be nice to come back to family and all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you miss the most when you're away from everything?
When I'm away, like on shoot.
Yeah.
What do I miss the most?
Or you just too in it when you're there.
Just forget about it.
No, there's a constant battle. I think if you're a filmmaker, right, all your friends outside the industry, you're constantly comparing yourself to them. And they are all like getting married, having kids, dropping a deposit on a
Buying
house.
houses,
Right? I got a steady cam. I didn't get a house.
That's
not even the same value. It's like 1/10 of the value of of what a house is these days. But I battle with that a lot. So I do miss my friends, but I also know that my path is different to them.
Yeah.
My family, like I love them. I don't miss them as much. Not because I don't care about them, but we're very independent.
Yeah.
Like we can spend months away from each other and then catch up and we're still good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I get a bit of guilt that I'm not around my friends as much because there's engagements and birthdays and I'm away. But lately I'm okay that I'm living a different life. But that took a while for me to be okay with that.
I think I'm in the middle of that right now. I'm kind of figuring that out,
so
especially
hard.
being in a relationship with someone who has like a steady job and just an entirely different. It's a thing. Right?
That's tough, man. Like,
and it's also it kind of sounded. You didn't say it in so many words, but it kind of sounded like in the beginning you were like, "I've said I'm not saving lives. I'm not a doctor, that kind of thing." But you can find your own way to save your life. How you said your value is help. You're going to find your own way to help people, even if it's not on the operating table or something like that. So that's what I'm figuring out. How am I helping people in my own way?
Contributing.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is as well, you don't need to be bloody Captain America or whatever to be helping out. Like you can just, it's like, you know, that person who wants to get in the industry, Like, go, hey man, let's go for coffee. Like, I'm about to do that next week. Like, that's how we help people.
Well,
You know
I was
like,
working with someone and I taught them some stuff about photography, and they went and like told someone else, like, damn, Logan helped me so much then.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I just thought I was like just in the room saying things.
Yeah, you don't need to, what does it say, the world, but you can like change someone's
you do
world
a
or
lot,
something,
yeah.
whatever that's saying.
If you film
is.
someone's wedding, they're going to look at it in 30 years. You might think a week later, like, oh,
Yeah.
it's not that valuable, but they're going to look back at this and be like,
Yeah.
this is a huge moment in my life. You know what I mean?
100%.
So much value.
But that thing you're going through, like, oh my gosh, like, I feel like there's a period, so, you know, I had a few partners in the industry, you know, ex-partners, and well, you know, these are all lovely girls. And then I think after that, I was like, oh, I don't want to date in the industry. And so then, you know, my next partner was outside
What's the challenge of
industry.
that?
Huh?
What's the main challenge of that?
What, with
Being someone in the industry, yeah.
in the industry?
Yeah. Is it just like you want to talk about other things when you're outside of work?
Yeah, you're both coming home being like, oh, which lens do we buy next? Like, I don't want to think about lenses right now.
The thing is, you do bring work
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
You do, and like that can be a good thing and a bad thing because then you're not switching off. There was this one girl who's like, I won't name her. She's lovely, very talented, and I just left afters, and she was like started working on a TV series straight away in a head of department role, and I remember going. Like there was
Shit, what
that
am I doing?
comparison,
Yeah,
'cause
that's what I thought. There's that comparison.
and I'd never had like I don't get like I've never had a complex before, but I was like this every day. I was watching this girl walk out the door, go work on this amazing TV series, and here's me unemployed. And so there's that comparison as well. I feel for people who like you know they're in the same department and they're doing the same position. Oh my gosh, like that would. You know, what if someone's getting more work and the other one isn't, you know? And then if there's one job and you're both going for it and it's like, oh, I got hired and you didn't. Yeah. That'd be really tough.
It's a lot to think about.
So, and then there's also, you know, the thing of like working together. Is that going to be a good thing or a bad thing? It's probably going to be a good thing, but are we going to be around each other too much? You know, 12 hours a day and then we're at home together. But, you know, I spoke to Denson Baker and he works with his wife, Claire McCarthy. I think that's her name. Yeah, she's a great director. And they love it, so it works for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the complication with, and then of course if it goes, you know, if it goes south and you guys split, then you're like, okay,
you have to work together. At some
yeah,
point
and then
in
you
the
have to
future,
work,
yeah.
and I've had that, you know. So for a period, I was like, I don't want to do that, so I dated outside the industry, and it was good.
Did people get it?
Huh?
Did people get it? Because there's a difference between not being in the industry, but then also not being like business orientated. And I've kind of had the conversation with my car, like she just doesn't want a business, doesn't have her own business or anything. And it's kind of like, I try not to be demeaning when I say it, but I'm like, you just don't actually understand like what I've put into this and what needs to be put into it kind of thing.
Yeah, well, like, I don't know if it's partners, but it's just people outside the industry, right? They'll be like, you know, why can't you just leave?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you can't just walk off set. Like, nobody does that. You can't just be like, hey, I'm going home early today. Like, film crew can't do that. You know what I mean? Like,
the first people
nice
there and the last people to leave, if anything.
Yeah, you know, and like, we live a very strange life. And I think, look, hats off to all the partners out there that are dating filmmakers because they are so supportive of our crazy lifestyle. But
even tonight with like we'll be coming home at like 11 tonight because we've got another podcast after this, and
Definitely
it's like,
sacrifice.
Yeah.
No, I've like
there should be some warning that you give to your partner before if they don't know about the industry. Like,
I definitely tried to, but I just don't think you can understand it if you're not like around it and if you're not in it. So it's like now my girlfriend gets it because she's seen me walk out at random hours and do these different things. Where it was like, in the early days, it was kind of like, you're going to a job at midnight on a Saturday? Like, what are you doing? Actually,
a colleague of mine, she's doing night shoots on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And your friends are like, why are you doing that? Why can't you just say no to that? You're like
the first house that I lived into, people would be coming home at like 7 at night from their work as I'm leaving to go to a work.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on?
like ships in the night.
Yeah.
I used to do that with my mate. He was a filmmaker as well, my old housemate. And I'd be doing the night shoots and he'd be doing like his shoot and we'd just be passing each other in the hallway. I'm like, see you, bro. Like, yeah. So I don't know if I have an answer for that, but I think as I've gotten older, I've realized it's probably going to be a filmmaker that I end up, you know, dating with, because they understand the lifestyle, or a shift worker, someone who understands that. Like if you like this is horrible to say, but if you want the white picket fence and like, you know, the classic Australian dream, I can't give you that.
Yeah.
Like, it's
No,
because
I've thought this. I can't just give you like house and kids and just be there, work 9 to 5, come home for dinner every night. Like, it's just not. It's not in my
Unless you
blood.
become
Totally.
like one of the world's best
and
DPs.
that's like, if someone wants to do that, there's no, I'm not saying that's bad. That's you do you. If that's your values, great for you. But my values is I need to go do this crazy thing. Adventure's like a really big part of my values. Like, it's, if I don't do it, I'm going to regret it.
And what do you find actually happens? Because I find if I don't do some physical activity like exercise and then B, creative stuff, eventually I just start becoming like agitated. I start becoming real like combative towards people. How do you respond? Like, is it a much longer process for you? Like, for me, it's 3-4 days without exercise, I'll start getting titchy. I could probably push a creative project for like 6 months to a year kind of thing if I haven't done something just inherently creative. But by the end of it, I'll be like, oh, I've been going so far in this one direction. I don't feel like me anymore. I've lost my compass, essentially.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exercise, I definitely get a bit like it feels like I need to like flush out the system. Like, it's like I need the oxygen moving around. Like, if I haven't done a run or a gym session in a while, you feel like, what do they call it? It's like momentum creates momentum, whereas like stagnation, is that the right word? Creates being more stagnant, you know? So
you feel your legs get heavier.
Yeah, well, like if you sleep all the time, or you're just kind of like, oh, I'm tired all the time, I just want to keep sleeping. Whereas if every day I'm getting up and I'm going for a run in the morning, I'm like, it creates more energy for me. Yeah. But in terms of creativity, this is going to sound really weird. Like, I don't think there's a day that goes by.
I was thinking that. I was like, you probably haven't been away from creativity in so long.
Hard, but just like in terms, it's not about film sets. It's just more about anything. Like I daydream a lot. Yeah. Like I daydream a lot. There's always something going on in my head, and sometimes it's bad because I can't focus. And I think it is because I've got to create, like, what do they call it? You know, neurodivergent sort of mind. You know, ADHD, whatever you want to call it. But I'm constantly got those visions going in my head. So there isn't a day that there's not some creativity going on. But definitely I have realized that, though, getting older, is filmmaking, cinematography, that's one way to express that creativity. Yeah. And as I've gotten older, like, you know, yes, I put it on my Instagram, I'm a camera operator, but that's not all I can do. I found that I really love graphic design. Like, I've been doing Adobe InDesign. Yeah. I've been like, you know, on my social media, I'll do my own sort of like, and then I really like color grading photos.
I think that's important too, having a creative outlet that isn't directly tied to your income as well, so that you're not really putting stress on it. Like, I love just fucking around with a little keyboard. Yeah. And it's like, I'm never going to release music. I can't. I never show it to anyone, but like, I just feel so much better being able to do this. I don't have to put pressure on myself for it.
Do you believe in like really specializing in one role on set is really important, rather than like nowadays everyone has to be a jack of all trades?
Well, it depends what part of the industry, right? Yeah. So I think if you're in sort of like content world, like you can have a number of skills, and it's great that you have that. And I have there's some awesome content creators out there doing amazing things. I think if you want to go into like feature film, TV series world, you absolutely need to specialize. Yeah. And I know filmmakers can do number of things, but for the sake of business and branding, you need to go, I do this and I do it well. Even though I know I can probably do a bit of editing and I can do a bit of something else, you're going to confuse your customers. Like there's a saying, you confuse, you lose, right? So if I say, I'm an operator / but I'm an editor, but I'm also like a boom op, and
have you ever directed?
Sometimes I do colorists. Like, you're going to confuse the heck out of your customers. Yeah. And in that world, they want to know, I'm paying top dollar for a specialist. So you go, hey,
someone who lives and breathes camera operation.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to know that they do a little bit of gaffing on the side, because that just takes away from their camera.
And honestly,
operation.
it's horrible that it's like that, because obviously people can have a number of skills, but it's just human nature. It's the market. The market wants you to specialize.
If you look for a plumber and the plumber also like bakes on the side, you're going to be like, that helps me. Like, you're going to get the plumber who just fixes.
That sounds good to me. That's like a bit of a niche, right? I get fed and they can sort out the plumbing. Heck yeah.
Maybe a bad example.
Scones? Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
The upsell.
So, so I finished doing the bathroom. Do you want to some baked goods? Like,
maybe that's what we should start doing.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I think we just came up with a business. I think you've got to, for the sake of like, this is where people need to learn about in terms of business is branding and marketing, right? And you've got to brand yourself something, right? That's why my Instagram has Lucas Tomoana operator, right? And I'm like, this is what I do. That's what I'm good at. If you want me, you want an operator, camera operator, steady cam, remote head. I can do that, and I can do it well. It's all about, a lot of businesses just like clear communication.
So when you were transitioning, did you have to say no to some DP jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. I did a full rebrand. Yeah, because I was known as a cinematographer, and people still to this day go, "Oh, you're a cinematographer, right?" And I'm like, "No," and because now cinematographers are my customers, right? Yeah. So I don't want to, conflict. I don't want to have a conflict of interest with them. I don't want to like win jobs over them. Yeah. Yes, I can absolutely go and shoot like something if you need me to go do Splinter Unit, but right now and this is another thing, is I know I'm more valuable as an operator. I will say this, is that I wish this was taught to me, is like, there's what you want and there's what does the industry need, right? And it's not always about what you want. Like that's not a great way to approach business, right? That's a me mentality. Like, so you need to think about what's valuable, what do people need? Because business is solving other people's problems, right? And I realized as well that, okay, there was a gap in the market. There wasn't enough camera operators in Queensland during that COVID boom. So it's like the industry needs operators. It didn't need more cinematographers. So, and then here's me. Also, you got to listen to your strengths. Like, what are your gifts? And Polynesians, we're big physical people. And people are like, dude, you'd be great at Steadicam. You should go do that. And then I was like, I've never thought about. And so I was like, well, I should start listening to that. You know what I mean? Because people are saying, we need that. You'd be great at that. So now, sure, I'm not the cinematographer anymore, but I'm part of it. You know what I mean? I'm in another role and I'm like helping out the cinematographer. So I was like, this is a better role for me, So I'd say to that, if people listening to this, is like, find out what's valuable, find out where there's demand. What does the industry need? And then find out what you want to do and see if you can find a healthy medium. I'm still part of camera department. I'm still next to the cinematographer. In fact, it's better for me because I know what the cinematographer wants. Yeah. Because I was shooting for 7 years.
Yeah. And you're probably around some super talented people. Like, you're going to learn so much about cinematography you never learn. I
was on like Mortal Kombat 2, filling in. I wasn't on the full time. I was filling in for 2 weeks. It was a guy named Stephen Wind in ASC, who's Australian guy who's shooting some of the biggest films in the world. Yeah. Shot like a lot of the Fast and the Furious franchise. He was I think he's about to shoot Electric State. Have you heard of that famous book? Oh, it's a famous book that's been made into a film. He just did The Grey Man. This guy's a Hollywood DP, and then I'm working for him and learning from him. So I think, I'm just going back to it. It's just find out what the industry needs and find out what you want to do and see if you can find a nice, healthy medium. Because, and then maybe when you wiggle your way through the industry, then you can be like, oh, I really want to be a director. Then go over to there.
Yeah. Well, that is one of the big differences with sport, is that you can do this for a long time. Yeah. You'll be in the industry when you're in your 70s if you're still passionate and
totally
want to be in
Well, that's why I had to make that decision. I was playing American football for about 3 seasons. I went down to Melbourne and played for a little bit, and I needed to make a big decision. It's like, this doesn't make me money, and I'm probably going to tear my ACL or do something very serious, rotator cuff soon, or I focus on something that I'm going to do till I'm in my 60s. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't plan on retiring.
No,
that's the thing. Yeah,
I've been thinking about it recently. Like, I just don't think I could. Even if I've got the words like retired, I'll still be
working.
Well, I love this. Why would I give it up?
But people like Clint Eastwood make movies in his 90s and stuff. Yeah, it just shows. And Scorsese.
There's a cinematographer named Don McAlpine, ACSASC, and he's like incredible. He's like one of our best cinematographers, and he's still shooting. I think he's 80s or something. I don't know. But
actually, Roger Deakins is close to 80 now. Like, they have to be pretty young.
Man, they're so inspiring, these people, right? And for me, it's
they're still actually with someone like Roger Deakins too. I always like the GQ breakdowns of their recent movies and stuff. He's always trying new things as well. He's like 80 years old.
At that age, you probably want to try more.
Yeah, he's still just like, I thought of this and gave this a go, and it gave me this whole new look. And I'm like, wow, like you've been doing this for how long? 60 years, and you haven't tried that yet, and you're still trying new things, discovering new tricks.
That's a common theme. I would read a lot of American cinematographer magazines, and they all say the same thing. It's like, you never stop learning.
Yeah.
there was a period of my life where I stopped learning during, guess what period?
The yacht period.
The yacht period, the boat party period.
You learn how to enjoy yachts.
Yeah, and honestly, I stopped reading books, I stopped learning.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have a little phrase that I live by, it's better never stops. And I think I stole it from Nike or something. But yeah, we're never going to stop learning. Roger Deakins is never going to stop learning.
Also, just do it.
Yeah. Also, yeah. What other taglines can we like put in here? All in. Adidas, all in. Yeah, I just don't think we'll ever stop learning. Yeah. And I've always thought like, I'm not gonna. Like, what am I going to do if I retire?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to be bored as fuck.
We put our whole lives into it.
Like, also, like, what will you actually be able to, like, what will your qualifications be outside of?
I don't know. Like, you know what I would do? I'd probably do a bit of hiking and travel. I'd do that. I'd love to get out
Become
in
like
nature.
a tour guide.
Yeah. Or take photos of, like, I'd
travel
retire in Queenstown or something, New Zealand, and just walk amongst those mountains. Maybe.
Yeah, I want to retire in Paihia. You've been to Paihia? Bay of Islands?
Oh, yeah, right. Up north.
Yeah,
right.
Beautiful.
Man, I'm thinking, Wanaka, Queenstown, Ferg Burger every day.
Yeah.
Have you had Ferg Burger?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Sweet. What else did
I don't know, man. I mean,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, we normally sort of round it out with like, what kind of advice do you have, or any sort of parting thoughts? But you've given so much advice, I feel, and people, tell us where we can find your podcast and you as well to get more advice from you.
Oh, look, if the podcast called Cinematographer. You can look it up on Instagram. It's on most platforms. Spotify and Apple Podcasts is where most people listen to it.
We've been going for a few years now, so there's plenty of content if people start from episode 1.
A lot to catch up on.
Maybe don't start the early episodes. They're a bit more embarrassing.
Yeah, even with ours, actually. Don't start.
Yeah, well, we're learning, right? So, there's like over 100 episodes of content there, and it's all for free. It's there to help people out. It's what I would have wanted when I finished film school. So, maybe I need to redo some of the episodes because obviously the industry's changing. So, but if you listen to it and it helps you out, send me a message. I'm on the gram, Lucas Tomoana.
I'll message
operator.
you. Helps me out.
Yeah. Or you can look up my website, ltoperator.com. That has my podcast on it. So, hope this helps someone.
Definitely.
Definitely will. I mean, you've helped us in this conversation. I think more people that aren't even as far into the journey as we are going to find even more value in it.
Cool.
So,
Awesome.
Thank you so much for the chat.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Yeah. Thank you to Marty and Catalog Music for letting us shoot in this beautiful venue every week.
Lovely.
Thanks to the listeners. Bye-bye.